Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mike's Moms and Mayhem, where motherhood meets real talk, bold truths, and all the beautiful chaos in between. I am your co-host, Kelly.
And I'm Lillian, and today's episode, this has been a long time coming.
We've been avoiding
Um,
this one.
we've been putting this one off for a while. This one and one other topic we are really putting off, but this one we're putting off for a while, and it may hit home for a lot of us, maybe more than we'd even like to admit. But we're talking about something that's become real in our lives lately, which is parenting our parents.
Woo, Lordy. Just thinking back. I'm just thinking back. It's when those roles quietly flip, right? It sneaks up on you. We know that it's coming at some point in our lives. We don't know when, we don't know how. It just sneaks up on you, and the roles just quietly flip. You're not just a child anymore, right? You are the tech support. Oh my gosh. Kelly, how you get that out? My dad called
Girl.
me tonight. I mentioned this before, but he's a huge Dodgers fan. And so me and my sister Katrina got the MLB, Major League Baseball app for him. So he's able to watch all of the Dodger games and everything. So yesterday's game was a blackout. The Major League Baseball app could not get it. Me and Katrina do not know how he found out how this game was going to be on Apple Plus TV. So he called me last night. He was like, Kelly, how you get Apple Plus TV? What? I don't even have Apple. I said, Daddy, I don't have Apple products. I said, you got to call the other
Right,
day.
right. I don't
So
even have that.
he called Trina. Trina said, Daddy, how you even found out? He was like, I Googled it. I Googled it. Now they know Google now, honey. Google for everything.
Everything.
So Trina said, so how do you even know about Apple Plus? He was like, I saw it somewhere. So Trina said, you don't need necessarily Apple ID, but you have to have the app. So in the background, my mom said, oh, I found a free version for 7 days, right? Okay, Trina, your mama found a free version. We're gonna see how this works. I'll call you back if I need you. Listen, them two and tech is funny to me. My mom will call me every day.
Girl.
My printer won't print. Ma, I just walked you through. So look, we are the tech support. We are the doctor scheduler. Oh gosh. That is a story in and of itself. We are low key the life coach. So today we are talking about how that feels to be involved in the role reversal of the child parenting the parent. And I tell you what it means, how we're all just trying to figure it out one deep breath at a time. Because I tell you, it has been a role for me personally. And then you factor in all these added on stuff that comes into play. And oh my gosh, it's woo, these shifting roles, honey. What yeah. And look, I already know some of your stories, so
Girl.
parenting the parents, how we're talking about shifting the roles.
So it's funny because I remember at over 25 years ago, it has to have been maybe even 30 years ago at this point. I remember one time being at my grandma's house and my grandma telling me, the day's gonna come when you're gonna be telling her what to do. And she was telling my mom, and I was like, not my mama ain't gonna listen to me. She ain't gonna let me tell her what to do. And she was like, wait and see. And I was just like, well, okay, whatever. Baby,
All right, we're here.
here we are. Here we are. And it's the, and part of it is they ask you for advice, but then when you don't give them the advice they want to hear, they
Yeah.
just ignore it anyway. They just gonna
Yeah.
do what they want to do anyway. You're like, quit asking me. I'm telling you how to do this thing and you don't want to do it. And sometimes they all in things they don't need to be in. And it's just, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I'll save that for later, but I'll save that for later too. But anyway, it's just a shift because I was telling my brother is not in this country. He's in a whole nother country. So trying to keep him abreast of things that are happening. And so our little thing is we're talking. I'm like, let me tell you what the kids are doing. He's like, what the kids up to? We talk about the kids or we talk about the children. That's what we call our parents because one day we woke up and they were like 12 and we were just like, no, you can't put the fork in the toaster. That will hurt you, like that kind of stuff. And we're just sitting here like, when did this happen? And my dad, to your point about the tech, my dad was the tech guru back then. Like, my dad was the jack of all trades. Like, he knew how to hook up a TV and splice this and do this and hook this up. And we had all kind of technology, video recorders, like all this stuff. And now it's like, how do I watch CNN? And you're like, wait, what? It's so crazy how fast the roles have shifted. A lot of it is lighthearted stuff, and I've shared stuff with you where I just be like, girl, what? But sometimes it gets a little hard too. It really does. But I remember my grandma actually telling me that some years ago, and I just never thought it would be so, and I never thought it would happen so fast.
Right.
It's really
And you keep thinking about things. He was like, yeah, do I need to share? Do I want to share? So my dad is 78 going on 20, right? My dad has always been the teeny bopper. He at 60, 65, he was swimming, doing laps every day, just keep up with some type of exercise. He's had a lawnmower service, a business for decades. And so he still goes out even to this day to go and do yards and rake leaves. And so seasonal, he's there. He's in people's yard. And he has clients, like 20 clients. He started off with 40 clients. And he was like, he told me and Katrina, he was like, okay, I need to dwindle down. So he cut down some of his clients. And so when he retired from pastoring a few months ago, me and Katrina was like, so are you going to retire from your lawn care? He was like, nope. He
never.
cannot
No,
stay home.
no.
He can't stay home. His thing is, I'm not going to stay home. I need to get out. I need to just keep my mind. And so we call him 78 going on 20 because he just, honey, he
Can't
just
stop,
out.
won't stop. Just
Right,
can't stop.
no. He won't stop. And so he is always out. Now, my mom on the other side, she's 72. She's a homebody. She don't want to go nowhere unless they decide to go out of town or if we're doing a family trip. That's the only time she want to go out. She'll go and visit her sisters or things like that. But honey, she home doing crossword puzzles or watching TV or she ain't moving out that chair. It's a little more challenging with her because other factors have now come into play. And so just trying to make sure, okay, mom, do this, you got to do that. But what I'm finding is that, especially for both of them in their own aspect, is that they don't want to lose control. I do find that the older that they're getting and some of the things that they, like you said, used to be able to do, they no longer can. Like my mom was the pastor's wife, so she did everything for my dad. So whatever program, she was a computer whiz as well. So she was always on the computer. She would do flyers, just different things like that. And so now she'll call and say, Kelly, how do you do a formula on spreadsheet or something like that? When she was the initial spreadsheet queen, right? I got it from her. I think as the older they get and some of the things that they were able to do, they're no longer able to do, and they feel that they're losing that control. I'll say some of them are really struggling with that. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've come to know. And even if I try to insert myself to say, okay, let's do this or let's do that, or honey,
Who asked you?
correct. No, nobody, you worry about yourself. It's pretty
I'm still the mama. I'm still the mama.
correct. I can do it. I get all this, right? So, oh gosh. So having to remind them not once, not twice, but 3 times. Hey, and they're still really good about going to doctors or making a doctor's appointment. Some things me and Katrina will have to just say, okay, let's follow up. How is this going? Because I also think that when it comes to medical issues, with all this stuff that could come up from as you get older, they don't want to bombard you or they don't want to share, or I don't say not so much hiding, but I don't want to
Or don't
scare
think it's a big deal. They don't think it's a big
you.
deal.
That's the
And I'm
thing.
gonna tell y'all something, because I don't want we're not gonna overshare personal stuff, but I had an episode just last week where and I'm gonna tell you the last thing you want to hear when your parent calls you is everything's fine, I'm okay. And
But
you're like, what
what's wrong?
happened? Right. And it's so funny because I'm in this precarious situation because I'm opposite of you. I'm the baby. And I have a brother, and like I said, my brother's not even stateside. And so it's this thing like where we just have this understanding when things happen, I'm gonna call him, I'm gonna tell him. Now my brother is more like my mother than I am, so he worries about stuff, and I know he hates not being here when things are happening because he's very family oriented. But like I was telling my mom just the other day, part of the reason why I do filter certain things, if it's I know my brother enough to know what I think he can handle. But I'm
Mhm.
also getting in this place where I have to let him know what's going on because it may facilitate something else happening later. And then if we have to call him and tell him, hey, this thing happened, and he's, wait, where did that come from? And they're like, oh, because of this thing. And
Yeah.
they don't know anything about it. I wouldn't want that. And so
Right.
it's trying to navigate what we should tell based off of what they tell us, because sometimes it's the same for us. They're like, I didn't want to worry you, or I didn't want you to think this, and they don't tell us stuff, and we're like, wait a minute, when did this happen? Wait, when did you start taking that? Wait, when
Right.
did you know? And they're like, oh, I didn't want you to worry. And we're like, no, it's not that it's not even that. It's that if something else happens from that, I
Right.
need to know what you got going on. And like, girl, the other day, first of all, let's just talk. I talk about my mom for a second.
You leave my friend alone.
My mom was the my mom was the bulldog. Like my mom was a church secretary, but she didn't play.
Mhm.
Like she could. My pastor used to say, my mom could tell you to go to hell so slick and so sweet. You be sweating and be like, why am I hot? Like pepping your step, walking and be like, is it hot over here? Did she just tell me to go to hell? But you be so joyful about it that you don't like. It's a week, 2 weeks later before you even.
You realize
Did
it?
she, did she cover my throat? That was my mom. And what I'm starting to realize as she gets older, it's like these two extremes. Either she does that when it's not called for or warranted at all, but the
Mhm.
situations where I'm like, get them told, mom, she's,
Right.
I
Right.
don't really want to say anything. And I'm like, no, this is the thing you need to do this for. Stand up
Right.
for yourself,
Right.
advocate for yourself. And I don't want to be a bother. And I'm like, no, this is where the bulldog. So for me, it's just kind of weird because the other day I was like, what happened to you? Like, you used to be this person where when people would talk to you slick, you'd be like, oh, in the name of Jesus, what we gonna do is this. Where now, like, I see people like taking advantage and saying something. We're like,
Mhm.
uh-uh. And
Right.
but the other side of that is because girl, I had went to the doctor with her the other day, and bless her heart, the little girl, the little medical assistant or whoever she was in, and she was doing her job. And girl, out of the blue, my mom goes, I like you. Can I tell you something? And the little girl was like, yeah. And she was like, your feelings don't get hurt easy, do you? And I was like, okay, flag on the play. Flag on the play. She was like, what? I was like, if you have to preface
Right.
what you're about to say with, do your feelings get hurt easily? It is inappropriate for you to say. And she was like,
Already.
well, I
Already.
don't think it's inappropriate. Well, you shouldn't have had to preface it. And the little girl was like, did I do something wrong? And she was like, not necessarily.
Oh Lord.
And the little girl was like, what is it? She was like, can I tell you? And she was like, yes, ma'am. And I was like, no, ma'am, you cannot tell her. And the little girl was like nervous because she was like, I don't like surprises. I don't like, what did I do? And I was like, sweetie, you're fine. Just do whatever you do. And I said, I tell you what. And I'm trying to calm the little girl down because my
Right.
mama done got her like anxious at this point. And I'm like, I tell you what, I'll let her tell me first. And if I feel like it's appropriate when
Yeah.
you come back in the room, we'll share it. If
Yeah.
we don't share it, then it was not appropriate for you. And so the little girl leaves out her, and bless her heart, she was sweet as she wanted to be. You could tell she was young. And
Uh-huh.
she left out the room to go do something. And I was like, what is it that you were going to say? And it really wasn't inappropriate, but it was something like, because my mom, she's old. So the little girl, when she called us back, she came out and she called my mom by her first name. And my
God.
mom did not appreciate that at all. So she was like, I was just going to say, she don't know me like that. She should be calling me by my first name. She needs to call me Miss at least in my first name or my last name. And I said, Mom,
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
wasn't something you should have had to preface with, do your feelings get hurt easy, number one,
Right.
because you made this a really big deal and it wasn't. But I
Right.
said, but also you have to understand from her perspective. I say, people, you call people Miss or Mister, why are you making assumptions about my gender? Why
Yeah.
do you think I'm this? How are you trying to put me? I said,
Yeah.
so it's really no easy thing for them to do. I said, so she was just erring on the side of, I'm calling you your name. I said, so it wasn't a personal thing. It's not something that we need to discuss. And
Right.
the
Right.
girl, once we got back there, she was, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, so polite. So I'm like, just let that go. it doesn't need to be said, but you damn sure didn't need to preface it with, do your feelings get hurt easy? Because I thought you were going to, girl, because at
Right.
that point, I'm looking at the girl's hair, I'm looking at her shoes, I'm looking at her scrubs, and I'm like, what is she going to say? Oh my gosh. And the little girl was probably thinking the same way. And I was just like, Mom, this doesn't need to be said. It just
Mm-mm.
didn't need to be said. And then the PA comes in and he's doing what he's doing. And she's like, I think this will be okay. Yeah, I think you can do this. I mean, she was like, anything he would say, she would just be like, and I was trying to remember something specific because, like, he would say, oh, this, and she's, yeah. I mean, she was a little snappy. And
Uh-huh.
I remember having this moment thinking, am I like this with people?
Yes, you are.
I know, and I hate it. Let the people do their job and let them get the hell on. And so I was sitting there, I have got to remember to be like, shut up when I go places, because sometimes I open my mouth and my mom comes out and I'm
Right,
horrified
right,
because
right.
I don't want to be this person where the people are just like, just basic stuff. And she got a rebuttal for everything. But then you got somebody over here who's taking advantage of you and taking money. And you're just like,
It
it'll be
won't say nothing.
fine.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't just want to be confrontational. And you're like, the man literally was like, how was your day today? And you're like, do you know Jesus? Girl, don't even get me started on that. But anyway.
I love your stories about your mom because all I see is just like she is like the epitome of a TV mom. I think about Fighting Temptation, and was she the pastor's wife? That is like your mom to
No,
me.
that was the pastor's sister.
Sister, okay, sister.
Well, she say so is snow and rain, but that doesn't mean we don't need to wear our rubbers. That would be my mom. That would be my mom.
And that's all I see when I hear your stories about that. So it's one thing to parent your parents, but it's also one thing to parent you as as the parent, right?
Yes.
Because like, I think I'm more like my dad. So I haven't had to, like, me and him butt heads all the time because we are the same people, right? Literally the same people. But my mom, she was just, and I say was, but she's just sweet. She does not say a lot of things. I think she's over friendly sometimes. She'll carry on conversations with everybody and, oh, you're just beautiful, and oh, the sun is shining brightly. That's just her. That's how she's always been. And so she won't say nothing. Me, on the other hand, me parenting her now, I think it's so challenging because I'm ready to, Mom, come on. Now let's get on this, get on that. Again, without oversharing so much, this is becoming a very challenging time for me as
Yeah.
a parent, parenting her or parenting them versus my sister who kind of says, Kelly, just tell me what I need to do, that kind of thing. We look at them as this rock, looking at them as this she woman and shero or hero growing up as kids. They were the ones who held it together, especially my mom. My mom was the one that held it together. But it just snuck up on me as the shifts just started changing very so quickly.
Subtly, subtly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you know what's it's really funny you say that because I am more like my dad.
yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Me and my dad are like, I would say 95% of me is my dad, that 5% is my mom. And my dad is so self-sufficient.
Yeah.
This is the part where I'll say that later because we're going to talk about why it's so hard.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why this is so hard is because my dad has never been a big man. My dad is a small, like he's a thin guy. He's always been relatively thin. He's tall, but he's always been relatively thin. But my daddy was the biggest guy I knew. My daddy walks heavy, like he was Superman. My dad, like jokingly says, if I tell you a termite gonna pull a train, go get a rope. That was my daddy. We didn't, if my daddy said it was going to happen, it was going to happen. And
Mhm.
so part of the reason why this is so hard is because it makes them mortal and realizing that how many more years do we have left? And that's why it's so hard because I was telling somebody the other day, I used to move a lot. Before I got married, every other year I'm moving somewhere new because I need something new or my lease is up or whatever. When I was single, I was always moving and it would just be me and my parents. We would just move our stuff. Like my daddy hated it, but that's just what we did. And I remember like the last time that I moved when I bought my house, I was like, oh yeah, they probably shouldn't help me move. Realizing that they're not as young as but in my mind, they're my parents. They're just going to help me. They're going to do like right now. We want to we're getting ready to clean out our garage and the storage. And the first thing I do is call my parents, be like, hey, we're going to clean out the storage. Y'all in? And they be like, yeah, that's just what we did. And so I didn't realize until recently when me and my brother were talking, maybe last year, that my dad retired from the military before he was 40. He joined the military so early that by the time he was able to retire, he wasn't even 40. So at this point, he's been retired, formally retired, longer than almost more than half his life at this point.
Right.
But he's always been self-sufficient. Like, he's the jack of all trades. He always got a little truck. He always got a project. I'm gonna go help this person do it. Like, he's so self-sufficient, but technology is kicking his ass right now. And so it's so weird to see this shift. Recently, we're always trying to give him something to do. Because when he idle hands, he gets in trouble. So we're always trying to give him something to do. But girl, my daddy has gotten into thrifting. Like, he's always at Goodwill. He know what the different tag days are. Like, if I go on this day and get this tag, I get this % off. He is always at the flea market. If the flea market is open, bruh is there. So, like, girl, he came by here today because I was telling him my younger one is in boxing now. And so they be taking the tractor tire and flipping the tire. And I was like, I need to get him a tire, girl. He showed up today with a tire for him to throw, like, to hit with the sledgehammer and turn and all the stuff. And I was just like, how much do I owe you? He was like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, where did we get this from? He was like, you got one? And I'm like, we do. But girl, I'm looking at him, and when I tell you, flea market down from head to toe. Like, he got on the shirt that's like, I'm half hood, half holy, like flea market shirt. He got on the belt buckle with his initial on it, with the belt, with his name printed in the belt, with his everything. Girl, he's got a cane. He walks with a cane. He's got a cane that has a gun on the handle of it. And I was like, how do you even steady yourself when you have to hold the pistol of a gun? And me and my husband were rolling. We're like, what in the world? He's like, flea market, flea market, flea market, flea market. And like, everything he's got going on in his life is the flea market. But he is also the person that you could be like, hey, I'm looking for, the other day I was looking for something. I was like, hey, I'm looking for this. He was like, all right, girl, that's I know. He was like, I got it. Where you need it? And I'm like, where you think? He was like, at the thrift store, at the flea market. He is that dude. But I said all that to say, my dad is hilarious, girl. You haven't met my dad yet, but my dad is effing hilarious. If you want to know where this comes from, this is my dad. But he's so self-sufficient. So it's really hard, those moments when he's dependent. It's really hard because, like I said, he's not a big guy. But if my daddy said, I will fly over there, me and my brother be outside and looking. Because which direction you coming from? Because that was just who he was. If he said it was going to happen, it was going to happen. And so he's always had this big presence. But here lately, understanding, watching him age, it's just like, he's not a Superman. He's mortal. But how do we get our parents to understand, even though in my mind you were Superman, you never had to be. It's okay for you to just be dad, and we're going to be okay with that. So if you do need help, it's fine. It's like this fine line between, it's okay to tell me you need help, but also you're a hero. So it's really hard to navigate those spaces because they're human, and that's what makes it so hard. One of many reasons that I think makes it so hard to parent them, because I do remember him just making a way out of no way. And Daddy used to be the car guru, honey. And let me tell you something. We done had some raggedy ass cars over the years. And if my daddy would say, whatever you see in that car, you better leave it where I put it. That's what we did. So you pick somebody up, they're like, what? No, don't move that. Don't. If it's, and we used to tell people, if it's a piece of napkin, leave it where it is. Don't touch nothing. It's serving a purpose. If it's a piece of foil, leave it. And so it's so interesting now that he'll call me. Like I said, technology is whipping his ass. But he was like, I can't get none of my text messages. Your mama get text messages. Why can't I get text messages? I just don't know. My text messages don't work. And we're like, okay, bring the phone. We look at it. Bless his heart. He's hitting the email icon because it looks like a letter, trying to get it. And we're like, oh, because that's email. And he was like, what? And we're like, it looks like a letter because it's mail, right? But he just couldn't get that.
Text messages. He ain't even looked at.
But also, you don't went in your settings and blocked every number. And so the text messages are, and I don't know what I hit. I hit something on his phone, and I was like, how did you block all this stuff? They had a list of everything he blocked. I'm like, here's my name. Here's brother's name. Here's this email. We've been trying to get this 6-digit code so we can help you with this. And you don't block the number. Like, he had all this stuff blocked. And we're like, how did you do it? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And girl, it's just so funny because he used to be the guy that would hook up the TVs and VCRs and come splice your cable and steal somebody else's cable and splice it up or whatever. And now these phones,
Yeah.
taking them out, girl, taking him out. So it's a bittersweet thing because we would do anything for our parents, but I think more so where it gets a little heavy is where we see decline. Not even, I get the fact that you don't understand technology because sometimes I have to go to my kids and be like, "What's this?"
Right.
Because it's so new and it's new, but it's where we actually see signs of decline that I think where it's really so much more powerful and more hurtful. Like you said, making doctor's appointments or having people taking advantage of them because of things, stuff like that, where it's just.
Woo! Yes. Oh my
Girl,
God.
and I'm gonna send you a picture because girl, what I got so tickled the other day when I went to the doctor with my mom, and she had got up on the table, and girl, first of all, she had on this outfit, and I was like, if you
Oh,
don't look like you
you
in
so
kindergarten, girl, and she was sitting on that table swinging her legs, and I was like, the roles, I am the parent bringing my kid to the doctor,
right.
and she just sitting up there like kicking her legs, like, I was just
Right.
like.
Look all messed up and everywhere. Look at
And just smiling, and he had on her little outfit, and I was just like,
wrong. Nothing's
"You going to
wrong.
picture day after this?
Honey. Nothing's wrong. That's the thing. Nothing's wrong.
Everything's okay. Everybody's fine. I'm fine. I just want to call you and tell you." And your heart is like,
Right. Right. Everything after that, right? You froze it. Oh my gosh. See,
"Girl,
is watching them get older, watching them decline. And I think for me, when I was little, or not even little, even of age, having children, and I started recognizing them getting older, of course, thoughts go in your head. If this happens, what are we going to do? If this happens, how are we going to take care of them or that kind of thing? And I've always wanted to be that child to say, I'm gonna take care of you because you all have been great parents to us. And so how will I be able to do that? But I also found myself in my situation now, oh my gosh, how am I gonna take care of my family and them? And I think when Kamala was running, I think that was one of the things that she was running on was trying to help what they call the sandwich generation. So me as a daughter or as a mom, I'm still raising my family, right? Caretaking for my husband, but now on the other end of it, now trying to care for our parents or take care of our parents. So we're sandwiched in both generations, the early generations and the older generation, right? And so I've always been, what will happen? What will I do if this happens? What will I do if that happens? A couple months ago, Cedric lost his dad. And that was a wind knock out of your body kind of thing for me because, oh gosh, this is one of the things I feared was one of us losing our parents. And what would happen, how would we feel, how would we deal with it. And even for Cedric being in the care facility and dealing with it, I was concerned about him because he's not with us. If anything happens or if he has these thoughts, he's not with us for us to talk it through them or that kind of thing. But when we lost his dad, that was such a devastating moment for the whole family. When we first got married, we used to talk about we want to take care of our parents. We want to be there for our parents. We want to do this for our parents. And I could just imagine how he felt being in a care facility and then not being able to go down there. They live about 2.5 hours away from us and not being with the family because we're not able to get him out of the facility when we want to. So having to plan for all of that, it was just a lot of pieces that we had to do. Whereas I'm sure if it was different times and different circumstances, we would have been with the family. He would have been all in. He would have contributed whatever he needed to contribute. So just thinking about that, we're always fearful of that moment. And when the time comes, how will we act? How will we react? Where will we be in our own circumstances to be able to handle that? It was just something that I was always fearful of. And then once we had to deal with it face to face, I think it was even more difficult because of the circumstances that we were in. It's not just about aging, right? It's emotional as well. You talk about there's a psychological shift that happens on both sides because now the child becomes the caregiver, and now the parent becomes the person being taken care of. So there has to be a psychological shifts that takes place when those shifts are happening right before our eyes. Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this too, because age and decline is one part of that conversation, but also I lost my train of thought.
While you get there, so we're adjusting.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It's an adjustment piece for both of us,
Yeah.
but I know especially for them losing that independence and losing that control. I know because that's what I'm dealing with now is them losing their independence and trying to adjust, seeing them as human flawed or aging or needing
Yeah.
help. And that's a hard truth pill that they have to swallow. We have to swallow. I know for my mom, just the losing control part of it, especially when we put in other medical issues that come into play, such as the dementia, such as the Alzheimer's, such as if they're ill, they get really sick, injuries, all these things where they're no longer able to care for them the way that they should. And we have to step into place to be able to do that, right? And they give us a lot of pushback because
Pushback. Yeah.
I can take
Yeah.
care of me. I can do this.
Right.
Go to the doctor. I can. And then sometimes the truth is you can't, right?
You can. Yeah.
You need us. And there was a conversation that took place that statements were, you're not going to control my life. I can still make decisions. And where that is the truth in certain aspects, not in all aspects. And you truly need assistance. And so them asking for assistance, like you said, your mom asking for assistance or your dad asking for it's they're not going to do it. So how do you overpower? I remember telling my dad, we're at the place where I'm just going to have to ask forgiveness. Later, I can't ask permission any longer because I see that she's not going to allow me to do certain things. So I'm just going to have to just do
Yeah.
it. Right? And
Yeah.
so I know that has to be hard on them. It's just losing that independence, losing that control, seeing that they actually do need help and them being able to say, I need help. I know that's hard for them. I know that's hard because, again, it's that psychological shift that's going on.
What we're talking about is what they can accept at this point. And so I know for us, a big problem is, and I will say I've had the blessing, and I'm going to call this a blessing, to work with a lot of people that are older than me who have lost parents and see some of the things that they're like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have this. I wish we would have had this conversation. And so it led me to try to have some different conversations with my parents. I remember a couple years ago, one of my coworkers lost her mom, and it was such a struggle for her to be like, what do I do with this stuff? What do I do with this? Who gets that? How do I? And so I started having conversations with my parents about, hey, maybe we should talk about these things now while we don't need to deal with this. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this idealistic situation. And I remember I bought them the book, like, I'm dead now what, that kind of book. And I was like, just put in here what you want to happen, things we need to know. Like I was telling my dad, your money is out. I don't even like, at least with my mom, I would know where to get started. But my dad, I have no idea like who he banks with or where to go to get this. And I know you don't want her to have the PIN number, but we need the PIN number, or we need to know what bank or whatever to go to your military benefits, all this stuff. Mind you, this was 2017. And I know that for a fact because we bought the book and me and my brother were like, put it in the book. We only have to have this hard conversation once. Once we know what you want, once we know what to do, we don't have to have it again. And they have just put this thing off. And every now and then we're like, are you working on it? But oh no, we'll get to it. And it's like almost not accepting the fact that eventually the day will come. And my thing is this, like I try to tell my mom, we got to have this hard conversation because I may not feel emotionally the way about your things you do. So I need
Ooh,
to know what you want to
what you
happen.
want. Yeah,
One of the
yeah,
conversations we've had, this is out there, but it's not really on topic, but like my dad's mom, she has my dad's mom's china. And she's, I want you to take this china and do what with it? So it's like that kind of stuff where you're like, it's emotional to you, it's significant to you. And I'm not saying I don't care about it. I'm saying practically, what am I going to do with this stuff? So
right.
tell, if it's something that you value, let's figure out somebody who would be able to use it. But let's have that conversation now when it's not even something we got to deal with. So we can
Yeah,
at least have this in a perfect world, give this to this person. In a
yeah,
perfect world, put this stuff here so we know what to do, because I know me, and I'm an emotionally driven person, and if I'm full of grief, I don't know what I would do with your things,
yeah,
but it may not be what you think I'm going to do with your things.
yeah,
So I would rather you have some input about it while you're able to do so. The other thing that I was going to say is not only parenting our parents in terms of illness or aging or injuries or stuff like that, but also trying to teach them different ways of thinking about things is difficult too. And I'm gonna just use this as an example, like with a lot of LGBTQ stuff, because our parents, a lot of that isn't their reality, or
mhm,
even with mental health issues. And I tell my students this all the time. My mom is so old school. She think a whooping can fix anything. Let me tell you something. They bad, beat them. They can't be still, beat them. They won't go to sleep, beat them. They won't get up, beat them. She just feel like that's what's wrong with y'all young parents now. Y'all don't beat your kids. And it's like, a woman can't fix everything, right? Also, parenting our parents from the perspective of teaching them why some of the things they may have done have been problematic, or why some of the things that they think may be a little bit tone deaf,
yeah,
things like that. So it's not just parenting our parents from the perspective of them getting older or hurt or whatever, but also reprogramming them to think about things in different terms. And I know that's something that I've struggled with my parent, because my dad is like, whatever. And he's actually a little bit more liberal minded now that he's gotten older. But some of the things, like with my mom, just being like, so this is why you can't call them that. This is why we don't say this word, right? Because she's just, sometimes they're just so set in their ways. And so the world has kind of evolved and adapted
without them, right, right,
beyond what they even can grasp, because they're just like, wait, what? So you
yeah,
a girl? Look, so you a girl, but you're a boy, right? So they don't get it. So also reparenting them from that perspective, and I think that makes it a little bit lighter too, because it's really heavy to think about our parents, their immortality and illnesses and stuff like that, but also teachable moments where we have to sit down and tell our parents, this is why we don't spank our kid, because
yeah, yeah.
of this or because of that, or this is why we're choosing not to go to church because of this, because of that. So it's so broad. So it's not just your parents are getting older, but it's the world is changing around. Trying to explain concept to them sometimes too. Maybe why whatever is happening in political realms is so problematic, or why we're upset about this thing. My family, we had an issue. It was around her birthday last year, with the political issue, trying to figure out how much I want to share, but it was a political debate we were having. There was a guy, he was running for an office, and me and my older son took her out for her birthday for lunch, and it was so impromptu. So it was like, oh, what are you doing? You free? We're free. Let's go to lunch. Hey, can you come meet me and grandma? It was so impromptu. So we're there and we're eating, and this guy, and I knew something was going around because people were like paying this guy so much attention, and he was just waving at everybody, talking to everybody, but I didn't put one and one together. And towards the end of his meal, he was going around talking to different people, and he came to our table and he was just like, hey, I'm on so and so, and I'm running for this office. And is it okay if I talk to you guys for a few minutes? And me and my son were like, yeah. And she's like, no. And he was just like, oh, and we're like, it's fine, because I didn't know who this person was. And I was like, I've seen your signs and I've seen your name. I would love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and stuff like that. And girl, she went off and she was so ugly to that man. She was so indignant. And when I tell you, I was so embarrassed, so embarrassed. And me and my son were like, calm down. And she was like, he's messing up my luncheon. And we're like, this is not a luncheon. We literally called you like 45 minutes ago. I was like, do you want to go get lunch?
It's her birthday.
Girl, she said she was having a luncheon and you are messing up her luncheon. And girl, me and my son were like, no, please, we would love to hear more about what you're doing because this is important to us. And we actually had some questions and we were like, oh, we finally get the person, captive audience. We were like, and he was like, is it okay if I sit down? And I was like, absolutely. And my mom was like, no, it is not okay. I mean, she gave that man hell. When I tell you hell, she gave him hell, girl. He ended up buying our food, and me and my son were like, "You don't have to do that." He was like, "Let me just pay for it." And we were like, "Sir, you don't have to do that, girl." It was so bad. When I got in the car, I called Hubs, and I was like, "If I ever do anything like this, you sit my ass down."
You
Like
will.
it was so bad, girl. It was so bad. He was like, "Was her blood sugar low? Was she like what was she showed her ass?" I'm gonna just say
Oh,
that.
that was her birthday luncheon, honey. Don't mess
Girl,
up her birthday
look,
luncheon.
it was the political dude, and then I do have a point, y'all. Follow me to the end. But it was that, and then the little waitress, she didn't like the waitress's name, so she done renamed the goddamn girl at the restaurant. And I was just like, and the little girl's like, that's fine, you can call me that. I said, no, ma'am, it is not fine for her to, she don't look like a so-and-so. And I said, she ain't gotta look like that. That's her name. It's fine, she can call me that. I was like, no, she cannot. And here I am telling this little girl, I was like, no, you make people say your name. It is your name. You
Right.
make her say your name. She don't get to call you something that makes her feel better. Or it was just so crazy to me. But the reason why I brought that up was because later we had to have a conversation because it became time to do the actual elections. And
Mhm.
girl, when she told the story of how she met this man, it was so bad. Me and my son were like, that's not what happened. He did not, he just came over and took over our table and he was this and he over here he tried to bribe me by buying me lunch and we were just like,
What?
that's not what happened at all. And he ended up buying our lunch because she ended up telling this man, if you're going to ruin my birthday luncheon, the least you could do is sponsor it. And the look on his face,
Oh my.
he was like, no, I can pay for your lunch. And we were like, no, no, you don't have to do that. He was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Now, meanwhile, he's trying to pay for our lunch. She's like, what church do you go to? Who is your pastor?
Because that's
He said,
important.
and you know how it is in the church world. So once he said the church, she was like, oh, Reverend so and so, and the
Yeah.
church secretary and so. And I know Deacon so. Okay, I have to let them know that they members are out here bombarding people's birthday. So when it was time for the election, and she was like, I'm not voting for him because he is a horrible person. He took over my lunch. He did it. And do y'all know he tried to bribe me by buying lunch? And we were like, you asked him to pay for lunch and he obliged, and now you pissed off because he bought you lunch. Like,
Oh
girl, and so I had to have a moment where I sat down with her and I was like, this is why what you're doing is problematic. Because
yeah.
people who believe you and know you are,
Yeah.
when you tell them this man is a horrible person and he bribed you, they're like, you know,
Yeah.
he did this to sister so and so. And we're like, that's not what happened. And so we were having to like have this conversation. Even my older son was like, Grandma, you doing too much. You doing too much. But having to have this conversation about why you gonna mess up this man's whole political career because you
Mhm.
just felt some kind of way. So it's not all about them being frail or old, but also not really understanding the implications of certain things or
Yeah.
not having a full grasp on situations and trying to explain to her like it's totally appropriate. People market for themselves via social media, or if they have a chance to talk to you, they'll do these things and they're not totally inappropriate because the world has changed and it's acceptable to do certain things now or do things a certain way, things like that. So I don't want to make light of the issue, but also understand it's not just them getting older and frailer, but also this world is evolving and they maybe don't understand different dynamics, relationship dynamics, marriage, even. Some of the marriage advice my mom would give me, and I'd be like, and how'd that work for you? Oh, okay. I'm a pass. So because things have changed and things have evolved. And so it's also getting them to understand that times are different, things are different. And no, we're not beating our kids out the box. for
Correct.
everything. Or if, and my son, he real mouthy. So when he say little stuff, she'll just be like, you just mannish. You just need to get a whooping, don't you? And we're like, calm down. He's actually articulating a valid point. You just don't want to address it. So it's also reparenting from that perspective too. Not to overshare, but girl, one day my younger son has an Oculus, which is a little VR headset with the little handheld joysticks, and he was playing, and he didn't have the wristband tight enough on his arm, and so he was playing and flung his hand, and the controller went out and hit the TV and killed the whole TV.
Right.
We had just got that TV because our previous TV had got struck by lightning. And so we had just replaced that TV. We didn't even have it a year. It was brand new. And he took the TV out. And
Right.
so my mom came over and she was like, are we going to watch funny videos? Because that's our thing when she comes over. And we're like, yeah, we can't really do that right now because the TV's out. And we're telling her what happened to the TV. And she looks my son in his whole face and was like, that couldn't have been your mama because she would have got her butt beat. That's probably you need your butt beat because your mama beat you and everybody hit you. You would have got beat. Let me tell you something. If you come on my house and do that, you're going to get beat. And we were just like,
Well, look, the question is, how many times you got beat as a child? I need to know that.
it felt like every day. It felt like every day. Now, talking about parenting your parents, sometimes your kids have to get your parents straight.
Child.
Because let me tell you something, because when she went on that tangent and she was talking about that, and girl, my son was like, you hit your kids? And she was like, and did, and was bragging, beat their backs out, beat them out the hunt, would put the hurt on them. And I can remember your uncle was 6 months old and he did this. And we're like, you spanking a 6-month-old? She was like, and did, proud, right? And my child, I love him, by the way.
Yes, we love.
Looked my mom in the face because she was just going on this thing about beat him. This one when I beat him. This is when I beat him. Love to beat him. Had to beat him. Right. And he looked at her and he was like, whoever raised you was a bad parent.
Oh,
Girl, when I tell you, I was like,
oh.
and she was like, why'd you say that? He was like, you actually hit your kids? But it just didn't even compute. And girl, when I tell you, took the sound out her face, she was just like,
Right, right.
because I think that was the first time she realized, like,
Maybe so. Those generation gaps are funny. I love when our family all gets together because we just sit around my parents' den and we just talk about things. And you know how these kids get new shoes and they don't want to crease. They don't put a crease in their shoes,
had
so
to
they have
change the way they walk
it
so the
like
shoes don't get creased.
right,
Yes,
they
yes.
now they got these little things to put in the shoes so you won't
So
have
they
to.
don't crease.
So
Yes.
I can't remember whether it was Brianna or somebody had new shoes and they put them on in front of my dad or in front of my parents, and they were walking and they was like, why are you walking like that? And I am hysterically laughing because I know why. Me and Katrina are laughing. So we explained it to my parents and they said, are you serious? Now they just as crazy as they want. We was like, no, this is a real thing. This is
It's a
serious.
real thing. This is
They
valid.
have no crease in these shoes because I don't know why, honey. My shoes have creases forever.
Listen, because once they crease, they invalid. But you know what?
And that's what they were
It's
explaining to them. That's what they
girl,
explained.
and that's so funny. I love that you have those. I feel like I don't have enough lighthearted examples. My examples be like, what are you doing? But I love that because that makes me think about us. The other day, my son was like, I need to get somebody's Discord. And I was like, they're what? And he was like, Discord. And I was like, I know what that word means, but what is that? And he was like, oh, and he's explaining stuff to me. And I'm just like, okay. So I know my day is gonna come. And I think you and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, gosh, when I hope when my day comes, I can just be receptive. What we're talking about here is this loss of parts of their independence. And we're in our 40s. And I think I told you this like a couple weeks ago when I started my tennis lessons. Nothing about me previous to that has been athletic.
And that's what blew
Nothing.
me. That is what blew me. You just gonna start out. You're not gonna work your way up there. You wouldn't even walk.
Because my mind,
You wouldn't even walk with me, but you want to play tennis.
because my mind was like, when I want to do something, I just go do it, right? Almost died. almost ended sis life on the court. Almost left it all on the court because girl, I was so glad Hubs was there because let me tell you something, your girl was a G. I hung in there. But as soon as it was over, gone. And so I get it though, because in my mind, I could do that because that's what I've always done. If it's something I want to, I just go out there and do it. I want to go run a mile, I'll just go run a mile. So I get where they're coming from because my mind don't feel 40. My mind feels like I can do whatever I want to do. And so I understand it from their perspective because you're like, oh, I just get up and run and do this. And then they say, no, you don't face plant it because you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. And so it's that loss of independence because my mind still tells me I can do these things. My mind still tells me I'm capable, but my reality may be that I'm not. And it's hard for them to get a grasp on that. When I used to do home health care and I used to work with quads and paraplegics, that was a big thing because in your mind, you just want to get up and run and do this, or your mind tells you, I got to control this. And so sometimes it manifests itself as being mean or being combative when you're like, but I should just be able to get up and do this. And so we have to be aware that it's hard for them too, because my mom is parenting her mom. I'm parenting her. You know what I'm saying? And so in her mind, she's like, you're not going to believe what mom did today. And I just had to shake my head. I'm like, do you not realize what you did today? And I'm shaking my head, right? So it's hard to reconcile that. So we got to give them a little bit of grace. Just a tip.
And you're right. You're absolutely right. When the health stuff start coming in,
Yeah.
and you're trying to figure out how much do you want to insert yourself, because you don't want to overbear. And I know we're doing this, but you want to help, but then you don't want to take over. And so those lines get blurred a lot. And especially for the last couple of months, how much do I insert myself? How much do I help? How much do I back away? Because, oh God, the resistance is real. The resistance is real. You don't want to keep pushing because you don't want to also lose the relationship either. And I guess that's one of the fear that I have, is losing the relationship because I push too much. But then I see that you need the help. You're not going to ask. You're not going to admit. Denial is there. All of this stuff is going on. And like I said, I'm just going to have to ask for forgiveness, and we'll just have to talk about you being mad later at this point. You don't know where to draw those lines. So we're talking about when it gets hard, right? And going back to a little bit, what you're saying is having the forethought to have these hard conversations. So my parents actually set us down. My parents have always been the one to save and save for forever. My parents were the ones who gave all of our kids 509, 504,
529?
Yes, 504 accommodations.
504. I was gonna say that's like an IED. Yeah, that ain't what we meant. 529.
529. So gave all of our kids 529. It's 529. Me and my sister, look, we just try to get through each day. So yes, we would have loved to have saved for this time as they're now going to school, but just didn't. That was just, my parents have always been those type of parents. Grateful for them thinking that way, but they also are those parents that they've got the will, they've got the power of attorney, and they sat us down and we went through every piece of material in their lockbox. These are the items that's in the lockbox. So we went over their will. They even purchased their burial plot.
Wow.
Stones. They was like, we don't want y'all to have to think about all of that when the time comes. So all of this is done. This is where we want to have our service. I'm up there trying to be as strong as I can. My sister, oh, crazy stuff. Can y'all just give me some Jack Daniel, and I'm just going to be in the back and just tell me what I need to do, because this is how I'm going to handle this. I can't deal with this. And this is how she's doing the whole time. And I'm like, Trina, get it together. But everything laid out on the table, all this stuff just lined up. We're going to put y'all on this. We're going to put y'all name on this. Y'all going to be this. Does that, right? But my parents have been those type of people as long as I've known them. So it does take that emotion out of it, because when the time comes, it's already going to be in place. And then the funny thing is, I didn't say it to them. I mean, Katrina was like, where is the life insurance policy?
Here's the money. The money.
And my dad said, we ain't got no money. We ain't got no money. Well, how we gonna pay fault. Y'all the lady.
Right.
So I was like, Trina, where is the life policy?
He said, we done already prepaid. You don't need nothing. We done paid it all. Jesus paid it all in too.
Right, here you go. Here's our lawyer information. The lawyer will talk to you at this time. So I guess the lawyer know everything. But again, it took that part off of because you always think about what we're gonna do, what we're gonna, at the time, and they've already had it planned. So having those hard and just that look, we just needed that one time. So we good.
One time.
We know what to do, so we don't have to talk about that no more. My sister don't have to go into a super with her Jack Daniels as we have a conversation. Even though she said,
That's funny.
Planning, I don't ask me to do nothing. I was like, oh my gosh, really? You gonna have me deal with this by myself?
Right, by yourself.
Kelly.
But you know what? And you touched on something. I don't even think you realize how profound it was. But that's a cultural thing too, because some parents just don't, they're resistant to help or resistant to having certain conversations because you don't put kids in grown folks' business. Yeah. So they don't talk to you about money or retirement or savings or endowments or whatever because you don't put kids in that stuff. Granted, most of our parents don't plan that way. But the other side, they just don't talk to us about where my money is or if this happens, go here. So it's really hard because a lot of them just were not programmed to think that way. And I know that for my parents, that's the case. This idea that they didn't have money discussions with us. So like truly, if something happened to I know my mom's bank, I could take the death certificate there and be like, I'm sure she has multiple things here. We need it. My dad, I have no clue where to even begin. Like the other day, I mentioned it to him and I was just like, I understand why you don't want her to know. Can you make sure we know? And because I was like, you still bank over here, such and such, right? He was like, nope. And I'm like, see, I would have been all over here at this bank. He was like, oh no, I don't bank none of them. I'm over here. And I'm like, see, put it in the book. Because we don't know.
What's this book? So is there like it's a real book? I'm dead book?
Yes, it's called, I think it says I'm dead now what? Like it's a book. I ordered off Amazon. I ordered them one. I ordered us one because I'm like, put it in the book. If you don't want to talk about it, write it down. Because think about, I don't know. My dad is a veteran, so I don't know if I think he has burial rights and benefits. I don't even know how to access them. I don't even know what that looks like. Debts that they still owe that we have to pay off. I don't know. That's the policies that y'all have. So we just need to know, what do you want? Hey, people that we need to invite to the funeral, people you don't want at the funeral. What song do you want sung? What color those things you don't think about, put it in the book. Yeah. So we'll know what to do because you just don't think like that. And I've seen enough people with these unexpected deaths where you just don't even know what to do first. I've also had friends who had parents like your parent. Like I had one friend who lost her mom and she said, I think my mama knows she was going because girl, her mama's favorite dress was in the cleaners and she had just picked it up. It was still in the plastic. Her mama had just got her hair done like 4 days before. So she was able just to get the hairdresser to come touch it up. Yeah. Her mom had everything planned out. She had the program planned out. She knew what song she wanted. She knew who she wanted to speak. She had it planned out. And her daughter was like, I was so happy because I was not in a place where I could have managed any of that. Yeah. And so those things matter. And I know it's hard, but we have to understand certain cultures. You just don't talk about certain things with children. You don't put kids in grown folk. And to your parents, you're never going to be grown enough. Correct. So they just don't have those conversations. And ideally, I think what we want I just hope my mom has the wherewithal to understand that I would never do anything to hurt her. So, because sometimes I don't think they're thinking like that. They're just thinking, you trying to tell me what to do. And it's like, but I would never hurt you. I would never do anything. I probably know you closer than anybody else on this world, right? In this earth. I know you wouldn't want to wear white after Labor Day. I know you need on your stock. Look, my mama need her camisole, her girdle, and her stockings, a full slip. Right. I know those things. So you got to trust me. But it's hard. It's really hard for them.
Oh my God. Yes. During the time of my father-in-law's planning, that just opened up a lot of thoughts. I would thank God that both him and my mother-in-law, and I call her my mother-in-love. I don't say laws, but thank God that they accepted me into their family a long time ago, even when me and Cedric first started. And so they've always considered me a daughter, and I've always appreciated that. And so we weren't able to contribute financially, but I wanted to do something. So I was able to do his whole book program. And so it was literally a whole booklet. And that was something that I wanted to contribute to him because he was such a wonderful man. Just, oh, he had a heart for his family. He had a heart for his children. He loved his grandchildren. He loved his wife. And he just had a heart for the family. And you talk about cars, all the cars we have ever had was always through him. He used to run a car lot. And so every car we had was always from him. He wanted to make sure we always had a car that ran. You, y'all got kids. Y'all need to make sure y'all got a car that can take them kids where they need to go. He just made sure that we was covered. But even in the planning, it just opened up a lot of things I didn't even think about that goes into planning a funeral. You think about this for so long, but then you literally only have a couple of days to put all this stuff, this whole service of somebody's life in a couple of days. And when you really think about that, is just overwhelming, especially with everything that has to go into the planning. And you got to think about this, you got to think about that, you got to think about where is this and where is that, especially if you didn't pre-plan for a lot of those things. And I think that kind of contributed the conversation from my parents to sit us down. I think it was like a couple of days later, we were at my parents' house for something, and that's when that conversation actually took place. So those hard conversations have to happen. They must happen because, again, if it's not planned like that, you are literally planning somebody's whole life in a couple of days. That's one of the things that we need to think about. Even our age now, I don't want to have that conversation with my kids, but you talk about this book. Now I need to go on Amazon and get this book, right? Start putting it in the book,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but even so, for our age, and my parents always said, you need to go ahead and start. Yeah, it's not a comfortable time, it's not a comfortable conversation, but it's definitely one that needs to happen, especially now because people don't live to be
As long
older.
as they used to, yeah.
Yeah, people being taken out 20, 30, 40.
Mm.
I don't know if you saw, but a wife was fatally killed in a car accident, and the
Hours apart.
husband on his way to the accident, he ends up dying, right? And now they leave this little boy.
Girl, I thought that was that was so crazy to me. I thought it was made up. I thought it
And
was
I read
made
over it
up.
like 3 or 4 times, right? And I was like, what is this? And I continued to see it. It kept being this place. And I was like, what? Can you imagine? Like, you are going to see, you heard that your wife just died and you are on your way to whatever, and you end up, yeah, that's,
That's the stuff that scares me. Yeah, we're not even gonna go there. But
no,
anyway,
yeah, no, that's not,
I saw that story and I was like, y'all be making stuff up. Like it was just so sensational, and I was just like, I can't even fathom that. But that
uh-uh.
just goes to show you how unpredictable life is. And my dad always says this, and he's so right. When you leave out the house in the morning, you don't have no idea that you may not be back. So that's why it's so important to have these conversations. And so to make the transition a little easier, don't wait until something happens. Like you said, have these conversations now. You got to look. They didn't want to have the talk with us about things. We got to have the talk with them about end of life preparations, finances, care plan. Girl, care plans is even harder because with my dad, with being in the military, he does have a medical power of attorney that he filled out. And I found out some time ago that like I'm so far down on the totem pole that there's stuff that needs to happen, and I can't even do nothing at this point because it's like my mom has ultimate control, and then it's if she's not able to do it, then it comes to me. But she like I'm able to do it, so a lot of that I just can't intervene in at this point. But the fact that he had the wherewithal to go to the VA and do that, it matters because my dad has very specific, and he knows like my dad is the realist and I'm the emotional one. Me and my mom, we're emotional. If there's a pill that might help, I want it. Jump
Right.
on my chest, break my ribs. bring me back, keep me plugged in. And my dad is just not that person. And so we're like, if it's not on paper, we're going to keep you here. As long as the electricity on, you're going to be here, right? But if that's not what he wants, it's got to be somewhere we can do something with it. So having care plans, advanced directives, even do not resuscitate, those things that you don't think about, they matter. Passwords. For me and my mama have that out all the time because my mama, I try to make all my passwords where you can guess them. And she showed me one more time. I was like, I would have never guessed that. So having those conversations now when, it doesn't mean anything, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So we definitely need to move in that direction to start having those hard moment conversations.
And even with Cedric being in his position, we have started that conversation. Parkinson's is a brain degenerative disease, right? So knowing what he wants now, even doing the power of attorney and that directive plan, now that he is very much capable of making these choices and decisions, we're having to do that now. So yeah, those care plans are very important. The language also helps as well. I say we want to make sure you are okay. We want to make sure we can figure this out together. You don't have to do it by yourself. That was the conversation I had a couple months ago. No, you don't need help, but let us help you. We need to figure this out. So language shifts really soften the blow when we having these conversations with our parents, with our husbands or our spouses that we're taking care of. Yeah, so language matters, right? Language matters, especially in these conversations that we're having. And we're talking about just making it work, right? Things to make it work. So I think there's others. What?
Baby steps, right? So look, as my child just got a new phone and I'm team Android, he got Apple. I don't know what's going on, right? So I can appreciate what my parents are feeling. So we have to introduce things to them, baby steps, right? Simplify things where you can. They don't need to have my parents are bad about this. Anytime we get a streaming service, we need that too. No, you don't. You may not need every app that I have. You may not need every social media thing that I have, every streaming service, so keeping it simple, okay, you may need email, text, and phone only. So introduce them to technology and different changes slowly. Keep things simple. Maybe they just need a reminder app to remind them to take meds or to make certain phone calls or remind them for appointments. Easing them into video calls because my mom is the queen of record a video and send it to you as a text message. Like you can talk back and you're like, I can't answer you back, right? So you may have to ease them into that stuff. So, girl, we call my mama on video call. She be like, you can see me. You see me. You like what I got on? Hey, and we're like, focus. So you got to ease them into stuff. So try to make it easy and simplify for them because it can be overwhelming if you give them too much too fast.
It can. And getting help outside. So don't be afraid of asking for help. Look, I promise you, one of the hardest things for me was putting my husband in a long-term care facility, right? And so me and Katrina go back and forth, or it used to be a joke when our parents used to be mean, okay, be careful, honey.
Shady Pines. You gonna be in there. Yeah.
You will be right there. Stop
right there. Girl, look, I joke it because my mama, she'll do something. She'll be like, just make sure my hair combed. Because she'll do something. I look at her, she'll be like, just make sure my hair combed. Don't let my head be tore up. You already know. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, look, they have already said, don't put me in a home. Do not put me in a home. And I get it. I understand it because you hear these and
horror stories.
Yeah, the horror stories. But the other thing is they don't want to leave their homes, right? Because my thing is just come live with me. Y'all come, let's find a house beside us so we can at least watch you. I can take care.
Right. Yeah.
Honey, they do not want to leave their home. So I thought I did a great thing. I put cameras in the home, right? Lord, why did I?
Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? What were you thinking?
Gosh, why did
Girl. Now you talk about my stories are hilarious.
Listen.
You and the cameras.
Mind
Because who
you,
told you? Who
both
told you?
were there. They both were there, y'all. And I had been preparing them all week, y'all. I'm just gonna buy cameras. Look, y'all are getting older. If y'all don't want to come live near us or live with us, can we at least just keep my eye on you just to make sure everything fine? Okay, fine, yeah. My daddy went all the way. Let's put it up here. Let's try this place right here. He took me outside. Let's put some right here. They were with me. Mama, Kelly, you need some help? Mom, I got it. Are you sure? Yeah, everything good. I put the app on their phone. They were like, okay, yeah, download that app for me so we can see. Right. So when you leave the house, you're gonna. Why did I? Y'all looking at me? Why y'all? I was like, oh my God. I can assure you, we're not spying on you. We just,
Girl, it was the I'ma just unplug it for me.
honey, they unplugged it.
Girl. When you was like, girl, they just unplugged the cameras. Look, because wherever we felt like didn't need to be plugged in, it was unplugged. Girl took me out.
Oh,
Took me
God.
out.
Look, I'm trying to be a good child.
You are.
Oh my
You are.
God. Those cameras are the death of me for sure.
Girl. It's
But
look, the cameras for them is like life alert for their parents. Remember?
yes, yes. Look,
They don't want that life alert.
so I ain't worried about them falling, but I just want to just at least make sure they are okay, right? I can just cut on my phone and I was okay, they're good. They're good. I'm not staring at the
Mm-mm.
honey, they done cut the cameras off. When I go home, I gotta plug it back in and just see how long they realize it's back in.
Child. But you know what? It's so funny you say that because there is a lot of stigma. And I do understand historically nursing homes don't have a very good reputation. And I get that, but sometimes it's being realistic too. And I'll give you an example for me, seeing different things that my grandmother is going through. My mom was like, oh, don't let this happen. And I had to have a conversation with my mom because modesty and all that stuff comes into, they worry about stuff. And I had to remind her, like, I am the only woman that you
Mm,
have.
mm,
I have a brother, I have a
yeah,
husband, I
yeah,
have 2 sons. So
yeah.
if something happens and you got a code red, they gonna see your yoni. It's gonna have it's who else supposed to help me? Who else gonna help me? And girl, so trying to get her prepared to me, it's not that we're trying to embarrass you. And when at all possible, I would absolutely respect anything. But
Absolutely.
if you have an accident and I can't get you up, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to call one of these men to come help me get you up. So they gonna see where I came from. It may be a reality, but trying to, and so for me,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to have conversations with my parents about what I know that I can handle. Now, granted, when the time comes, I like to think I'd be a G and I'll be like, I got y'all. As of now, the way my mind works, I can't. Me and my brother had this conversation because my dad is the self-sufficient one.
Uh-huh. Yes.
My dad is self-sufficient, but he's the one that you don't need to leave alone. My mom is the dependent one, and she's the one you can't leave alone.
Right.
Right. So we're just like, and she's just let me come live with you. And I'm like, that would not work. It would not work for us. It would not. And I really like to think I would just be like, it's fine.
At least your mom wants to. I can't even get mine to. At
Girl, my mom
all.
wants to. And I'm like, no, if you need me to still love you and you still love me, we need babies. But don't get me wrong, all things being equal, she can absolutely come. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also got enough sense to know that I know me and I know my limitations. And my limitations are I know what I can handle and what I can't as of now. But I would think when the time comes that I would just enter into this realm that I'd be like, I'm able to handle it. But like you said, it's okay to ask for help with things that are beyond us.
Yeah.
And luckily, I told you this in the last couple of years, they actually started liking my husband. So I think they would be okay with him having to help me with certain things. But like I try to tell my mom this, there are no other women. So that's why she loved you, Kellyanne, because you her adopted daughter because I might be like, Kellyanne,
I'm coming. I'm
we got
coming.
a code red, girl. Red phone ringing over here, girl. I need a little help and you might have to come help me, cuz.
I will be there. I'll be there. Yeah. So yeah, we should not have any shame in if we do have to look into that home care or adult day program. I try to get my mom just to get out the house. Just go to one of those
Yeah.
senior city
Listen,
centers, the centers.
yes.
I
Go
ain't
do
going
an activity.
I ain't going to they old.
What age would they be?
What y'all the same
Would they be your age?
age. They
Would they be
old.
your age?
What?
Girl,
She would not
honey.
go. She would not go at all. It's mind blowing, just mind blowing. But you want to sit
Which
in
is
that
so
chair.
funny
You want to
because
sit in
my
that
mom was
chair
the
with her.
opposite. I was like, come on, let's go to Zumba. Let's go to some. She was like, they ain't got no silver sneakers. They ain't got no Golden Palace package. Cause I can't like, so she'll be like, yeah, I need to do chair yoga. I need to do the old people aquatics. I need to slow it down. So it's so
Right.
funny how they just look at things so
Oh,
differently. So
yes,
differently.
yes, yes,
So differently.
yes. So, in our closing thoughts and some of our takeaways, so parenting our parents is one of the life's hardest transitions. God knows it is. Oh my
It really is.
gosh. But it's also one of the most meaningful ones because I
Mhm.
cherish my parents. I really do. Of course, I want them to live to they're about, what, 105, right? But it's not about
200.
it's not about control, and I'm really trying to get my mom specifically to understand it's not about control, it's about care. Y'all took
Mhm.
care of us, y'all raised us, right? And so why would we not want to do the same in return during this time, during your seasoning times, right? So that's where I am, just really trying to get them to understand that you all have given everything for us to be, and they still give, they make sure that we're okay. Yeah, y'all good this week, even where they are. Yes, we're good. I'll put a couple dollars in your account, right? So why would we not want to in
Give
return
that back. Yeah.
yeah, in return
Yeah.
be the same to them?
Yeah.
So whew.
The other thing is, y'all, we have to take care of ourselves and give ourselves mercy. It's so easy to get burnout when you're in that caregiving season of your life. Don't forget that you matter too. We still have to take care of our needs and our family needs while we're also in. So we got a lot going on. We're taking care of us, we're still taking care of children, and we have to parent our parents in that. So you just have to take care of yourself too. And remember that just like our parents didn't get everything right, we're not going to get everything right either. And that's okay. We make mistakes. Like you said, sometimes we do have to realize, okay, I can't make these decisions for them. I have to make these decisions with them. So
Yeah,
we're going to make mistakes because it's uncharted territory for them just as much as it is for us.
it
And
is.
that is okay.
Yeah.
Grace is key. We have to give ourselves grace and mercy during this season because it's so important. It's so
Yeah,
important.
yeah. This sandwich generation, and I know a lot of us are, a lot of you all out there are in this sandwich generation. So you're taking care of your children and you're also taking care of your parents. And
Yeah.
so, yes, taking care, making sure you are taken care of is definitely key.
Paramount. It's absolutely
Yes.
paramount. Yeah.
And we always say this illustration, what they give on planes. That mask come down, you put that mask over you,
Put it
right?
on yourself first. Yeah.
First, and then you can take care of everybody else. So it's the same situation. It's the same
Yeah.
situation. So okay, so here's your favorite part again. We even have a journal prompt for this.
Yeah.
Journal prompt for
Always a
everything.
journal prompt.
Oh my
Always
God.
a journal prompt.
So take it
Yeah.
away. Sis. What is our journal prompt now? What's our
So,
journal?
as you're reflecting on this topic and think about how that's applicable in your life, or maybe was applicable or will be applicable, take a moment and ask yourself, what emotions come up when I think about parenting my parents? How do I want to show up for them and for myself in this season? You don't have to have it all figured out. Just start with honesty. But again, incorporate your self care into that conversation as well, because as Sis said, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself and you cannot pour from an empty vessel. So, think about what you want that to look like in whatever season you find yourself having to do that.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So if
Yeah.
you're walking this road right now, we see you. We're in it right along with you. So tell us what the hardest part for you may be while you're walking in this journey. We want to hear from you. So send us your stories. Definitely, if this episode resonated with you in some way, you are in it, you're smack dab in it. In whatever way you are, let us know. We want to hear from you. Please, as we get ready to wrap up, don't forget to subscribe and follow us. Leave us a review. Share this with someone you believe needs to hear this information, this episode. Connect with us wherever you hang out. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Run to our YouTube page, please, and subscribe. Hit that bell for when the new episodes drop. We drop every week. We try to drop every Wednesday. I've been trying to get Wednesdays, but if not, we'll be there right on Thursday. One day this week, you don't get us.
One day in a week. One day.
We are also on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So we're on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. And we are trying to really get on Substack. So we're trying to beef that up as well. If you are someone who is parenting your parents and you want to share your story, email us at info@mikesmomsmayhem.com. Or we also have a comment section on our website at mikesmommayhem.com. Please connect, share your story, or say hello. And share this episode with your family, your friends, and even your foes because they may be parenting their parents as well. So share this with them. So until next time, take care of yourself. Call your parents just to check in on them. If they did allow you to put cameras in, just check on them, please. Just because I can't check on my
Child.
check on mine because all the cameras are off. They're off. They're off. They're off. All right. So we're about to get out of here. So remember to keep the mic on. Oh my God. The mom's energy strong and the mayhem exactly how you like it. I am your co-host, Kelly.
And I'm Lillian.
We're signing off for today. We'll see you next week.
Bye.